Blade, and I'm the editor, creator, and producer of what you're watching right now, Blade Talk. If you are new here, welcome, and you found this presentation helpful and informative, do me a huge favor and hit that like button. Do me an even greater favor and subscribe to my channel. I always appreciate all the support that I am given. So in this presentation, I want to respond to all of the questions that I received during my question and answer session in my email concerning relationships, marriages, etc. And I just want to point out that I haven't been ignoring your questions at all. I'm not a marriage expert. I've never even been married myself, so sometimes I feel like I'm in no place to answer certain questions like that. And I always say that the best advice I can give people who are in relationships or who are married is no advice. Work it out between yourselves. You chose that person for better or for worse, and the best thing I can do is stay out of it. I was always taught that love is just an understanding between two people that no one else will ever understand. So I personally believe love is subjective. My idea of love may be different from your idea of love, and I don't like to alter anyone's perception of what love is. That being said, I'm going to give my relationship advice in this presentation just because I have about 8 or 9 people that are asking me how do they know when they're in love, advice on the dating pool now, how do you find the right person, etc., etc. So, that being said, if you're interested, let's hit that intro and let's begin. Alright, so again, this comes with a huge caveat that I am not a marriage counselor. I'm not an expert in relationships or anything like that. This is just based on what I've seen in my life. So one of the things that I had to learn, and this is true for relationships as well as friendships, is to choose myself. There are people that come into your life that aren't equipped to be on the same altitude or frequency that you're on. And if you keep trying to pull them up higher and higher to the altitude that you're on, they're going to die. Now, not in a literal sense, but you'll begin to see signs that they aren't ready for marriage. They aren't ready to talk about children. They're not ready to own a house, etc., etc. Some people have only been equipped in their life with their life lessons or what they've learned to go to a certain level. That's it. I've even been guilty of trying to push people to come on up to the same altitude that I am, and it always essentially falls apart. They can't breathe up here. When I have tried to convince people to seek God and gain a relationship with Him, many relationships have fallen apart. When I have talked to people about marriage, starting a family, investing their money, some people aren't ready for those altitudes. I've gotten to a place in my life in my late 30s to where I just say, show me who you are, and I'm going to believe you. I won't argue with you. I won't pull you up here if you don't know how to handle this altitude. So just stay where you are. You aren't a bad person. You aren't wrong. It's just that you don't know how to live up here. So I will do what I can for you on the level that you're on. I don't mean it in a condescending way. My mindset is just different. I'm trying to work on my legacy and work on how I want to be remembered when I leave this earth. Some don't worry about it until they get older, and then they want to get a relationship with God, and they want to worry about, what life will be like or what they want to leave behind. And I don't judge anyone, but I always ask, why couldn't God have your best years? You see some men do this in terms of relationships. They go from woman to woman, and then in their 50s decide that they want to settle down because they need someone to recognize the first signs of a stroke. Why couldn't a woman have you in your prime? I've always said that some people think that they're immortal. Mainly men, right? Think that they're immortal, that we will live forever, and they aren't really thinking about tomorrow. I don't surround myself with people like that. I believe the point of life is to invest in something that's going to outlive you. Dust off that instrument and make music, make art, sing, dance, grab that pen and write some poetry. Start a family, start a podcast if you have something to say. I come on this platform and I encourage people to have a relationship with God, because I believe human beings are pre-programmed for religion. If you are a young person, or even if you are an older person and you don't know what to do with your life and you feel stuck, if you are lost and about to slip into a depression because you don't know what the purpose of life is, my advice has always been very practical. If you're a young person, find an older source of wisdom and cling to that person. Cling to that wisdom. And if you're an older person, find a religious community. I say religious community because I think it's the only durable community that has ever been created outside of biological tribe. Right? Your family, obviously you share the same blood, maybe the same experiences when you were a child, so you have that sense of connection there. But you have to be careful with that, because it's the hardest place to flourish as well, because people want to keep you at the mindset that they remember you. So you'll hear them say, I remember when you did this. I remember when this, and they can't get to know who you are now because they're still stuck in that mindset. So I always say religious communities because they have stood the test of time. Then find a duty to perform on behalf of someone else. I believe all human beings have a religious impulse, and it gets filled one way or another. Some find it in church, in shul, in God, etc. Others find it in political movements, which is actually very dangerous. Others try to shut it out completely, and then they fill the hole that they have in their heart with alcohol, drugs, going from women to women, going from men to men, right? I can only speak from a man's point of view. But if you are a woman in search of a husband, then I would advise you to make a list of everything that you want that man to be. Seriously, make a list of everything that you want that man to be, and don't hold back. Whether you want him to have 800 credit score, 850 credit score, be well-rounded, make $200K a year, put everything on that list that you want in a person. Do it. Put it all on there. Then, once you're done, take a look at that list and then become the list. See, most people are not willing to become the list of what we want. There's a huge lie going around about relationships, and that is that, well, opposites attract. They really don't. The king doesn't marry the homeless girl on the street, he marries a queen. The doctor doesn't marry, someone that is an alcoholic hanging out by the liquor store. No, the lawyer doesn't marry the drug dealer. This isn't a movie. That stuff doesn't happen. Opposites don't attract. Okay. I encourage people to marry someone who has the same values you do and is on the same IQ level that you're on. Date with a purpose. I will never understand people when I ask them, how long you been dating? And they respond with about 4 years. Then I'm like, well, what are you waiting for? If you see something you like at the store, you take it off the market, right? So if you see something you like, then take it off the market. If you can't make up your mind within a year, unless something crazy has happened, just let it go. Just let it go. You only meet the person you're going to marry when you believe it is time to get married. People think you will meet a person, date a person, and if marriage comes, then it will happen. Wrong. You decide to get married, and then you meet the person that you want to marry. Because you're thinking in a different way at that point. When you decide that you want to get married, your mindset changes and you're thinking about your future. So when you're dating for marriage, you have a set of values that are in your head. What kind of community you want to live in? Do you want to rent? Do you want to own? Do you want children? How do you want your life to be structured? Your mindset is different. The issue is you have people in the dating world that are just dating because they are lonely and they just want the high of being in a relationship. It wears off and then an argument comes and then they ghost you. There are plenty of apps that you can download if you are just lonely and need a friend. And there are plenty of apps that you can download, I'm sure, that if you just want sex. But they don't have many apps that are geared toward marriage, meaning it's the only option. You're just here for marriage. You're not here for a friend. You're not here for something casual. You're here strictly for marriage. Marriage in today's society is looked down upon. And that to me is sad. As someone who is a religious Jew, I still find value in marriage. Not only is it a mitzvah, but I think it's one of the most beautiful things that life has to offer. And it kills me when people say that, well, I don't need to get married. It's just a piece of paper, right? I hate that saying. It's what's on the paper. It's what that paper represents. And it changes your life and the way that you think. You can reduce the value of anything. A ring, a championship, a cup, or whatever the case may be. You can reduce the value of anything. It's what that paper stands for. And if you don't see the value in it, then why waste someone else's time that wants to get married? So I've always believed that a woman's role in a relationship is to educate and to nurture. A woman will leave the house if she feels like she's not educating the family and nurturing their existence. Similarly, a man's role is to provide and to protect. We leave our homes when we don't feel like we are a man anymore, meaning we're not providing and protecting. And we're living in an age where it's a man versus woman kind of thing, you know, and I hate it. We need each other. Men need women, women need men, right? The idea that you come to a woman as a man, and I can only speak from a man's point of view, and that woman immediately tells you that I don't need you. You're just a want. I pay my own this, I have my own career, I have my own place, I have my own vehicle, etc., etc. So I don't need you. Like, how are we even supposed to respond to that? Because what that translates to most men is that you won't care about us. The fact of the matter is if you're a woman and you have a good career and you pay your own bills, that is awesome. I'm happy for you. But that doesn't mean that you still don't need a man. Men need women and women need men. If you reduce a man's role to just a paycheck, then of course he's a means to an end. But if you value family, structure, companionship, communication, intimacy, then the value of that man starts to increase, and you understand that man is actually a need. And men need women. It kills me when men say, I don't need to get married and, I'm good by myself. And no, you're not. You can't unlock your full potential by yourself. I always tell people the first man, Adam, walked this earth. He had peaceful garden, the animals, spoke with God. He had everything, immortality. He had everything. And yet he still felt empty. He still felt that he needed someone. And so God made woman because we need women and women need us. How else are you going to unlock your full potential? Because you only think a certain way. Men and women don't think the same way. So in order for you to actually be able to cover your blind spots, you need that woman's mentality. You need her perception to see the things that you may miss, and vice versa. And I'll say this. The fact of the matter is that men cannot protect what they can't control. Men cannot protect what they can't control. Now, when I use the word control, already a lot of women just cringed a little. So let me explain. I get it. Women will often say, I don't want a man to control me. No man can protect what he cannot control. Now, you don't have to be a control freak, because she has a right to rebel against ignorance that masquerades itself in a form of a controller. I have to set a balance here, otherwise after this presentation, a man will turn to his wife or call up his girlfriend and see, I gotta control some things around here. No, no. Here's the thing. A woman will submit to you if you demonstrate the wisdom that allows them to see it. They submit to it, then it is that wisdom that is the controlling influence, not you personally. In order for a relationship to work, men and women need to understand that a woman's heart is just as fragile as a man's ego. For the man, you have to know that you can't play with a woman's heart. Don't play with their emotions. Don't awaken her love with no intention of loving her truly. And for the woman, you have to understand that there's a certain way that you have to handle your man's ego because it's just as fragile as your heart. We don't think the same, and again, I personally believe that is by design. See, women don't feel the closest to you when you all are making love. That's for the man. Men feel the closest to a woman when we make love, which is why it tears us apart at the thought of our woman being intimate with another man. It completely breaks us, just the thought of it, because we feel the closest to that woman when we're making love. A woman feels closest to a man when you are honest and transparent about everything. When you are transparent, because transparency says, I'm going to share something with you, and I need you to hold on to that. Something no one else knows. The challenge for men is that it requires a man to be vulnerable. Meaning, if I tell you something in a vulnerable space, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to use it against me in the next argument? Are you going to tell your best friend about it? But that's why it's when a woman feels the closest to that man, when she knows things that he trusts her with that level of information, which is why it crushes her if you confide in another woman, be that a friend, be that anyone else. She wants to be that person that you confide in. She feels the closest to you when you allow yourself to be vulnerable with her. So the hard thing for men is being vulnerable in that space because someone used it against them in an argument. Speaking of arguments, I really think that social media has ruined a lot of relationships. Many don't know how to solve problems anymore. It isn't about arguing. It's how you argue. Be sure to keep whatever it is between you two. There are some things that there are some people that like to go and take time alone, and I always advised against it. Because when she goes on one end of the house or in a room, what have you, and he goes in another, they aren't necessarily alone. That same evil inclination that tempted Eve in the garden is in there with both of them. I'll give you an example. A woman is upset that her man, isn't spending enough time with her or being romantic like he used to. They both storm off to opposite ends of the house. Now she is alone with her thoughts. Now it goes from him not recognizing that you just want to be a priority to now he doesn't see your worth. Then that turns into, does he really love me? Then that turns into, he must love someone else. And then that turns into, someone else must be getting his attention. That's why he's not giving it to me. And very quickly, it can escalate. Remember in the Garden of Eden, the evil inclination didn't say to touch the tree. It didn't say to give the fruit to Adam. These are all things that she thought of on her own. Sometimes your mind is your own worst enemy, and it makes you believe things are bigger than what they are. Then you get on social media and you see posts that reinforce what you're thinking. Then you tell your best friend and they agree with what you're saying. Now when you and your man speak again, it isn't about how you feel neglected anymore. Now it's, are you cheating on me? Now it's, do you really love me? Now you're second guessing everything. So a small issue just became monumental. Social media is horrible and ruins a lot of relationships. It glosses over the necessary obstacles and hardships that leads to 50, 60 years of marriage. No one wants to admit that grandpa was a Rolling Stone back in the day. No one wants to admit the lies they had to get over, the betrayals. This is because social media, people only post the highlight reels, the good times. Now, the married people who are watching probably are nodding and agreeing because they know it isn't easy, but they know the beauty of marriage itself. You stick through it, and years later, you look back and say, we overcame every obstacle, and it's beautiful. That being said, understand that in the dating world, men are always going to either lie or exaggerate who they are in order to make themselves look good to the woman. It's just like a job interview. You're going to put on your best outfit. You're going to get a nice haircut, present yourself well, etc., etc. You don't do that every day. That's not how you look when you're with, your friends, etc., etc. But you're putting on an appearance, hoping that you land the job. In truth, women lie as well. They use filters to highlight their best features because it's all about competition. The problem is that we are competing with illusions that aren't real. A man has to compete with the models on social media that have the six-pack abs, got a nice house, a nice car, that makes six figures, etc. And a woman has to compete with the women on social media that have the butt implants, the breast implants, the makeup, etc. Comparison is the killer of all joy. You see these things on social media, and you try to be like that because you see the number of likes and comments they get from these men and women, and you feel like that's what you need to be in order to gain attention or be noticed by a good man or a good woman. The thing is, if you were looking for marriage, then that stuff shouldn't impress you. The number of likes, comments, etc., that doesn't tell a person anything about who they actually are, where their values are, what their principles are, how they love, how they feel about God. Now, everyone just wants the views, the likes, and the comments, but I always ask, at what cost? At what cost? At what are you sacrificing for it? Will you turn into someone you truly aren't just for clicks? Social media is really trying to affect the way people think, and it truly is. You see posts with relationship goals, and that is subjective. You see posts of a woman is half dressed saying how lonely she is. You see men post their materialistic stuff, their house, their car, saying things like, I wish I had someone to share it with. The problem is that the people that just want attention has infiltrated the people that want marriage. So now you can't decipher between who wants attention and clicks versus who wants something serious in marriage. I would say you can determine it by having a conversation with them. Now, me, myself, personally, I've been horrible with surface level conversations. So ask them deep questions about the future and what their plans are. And if they don't have one, then you know it's just surface level. They just want attention. That goes back to that mindset I was talking about earlier. You decide that you want marriage first because it'll alter your mindset. If you want marriage, then you have already decided how you want your future to look with someone. So ask them about the house that they want to live in, how many children they want, their relationship with God, their morals, their values, their principles, etc. If they say, I haven't thought about it, or this is too deep, again, don't waste your time pulling them up to the altitude that you're on. That's my personal opinion on relationships and friendships. Don't waste your time pulling people up to the altitude that you're on. Again, it doesn't mean that they're a bad person. It doesn't mean that they're wrong. They just can't handle that altitude. I personally have always surrounded myself with people that know what they want in life, that are thinking about what they want to leave behind, their legacy. If you have a person that can't even think about whether they're going to get married or not, then that's a person that's only living for today. They're not thinking about tomorrow. And tomorrow isn't always promised. So you have to think about, what do you want to leave behind? What do you want your legacy to be? And live it now. Let's decide what that is now so we can start living it now. If you want to play an instrument, learn how to play it and make beautiful music. If you can sing, grab you a microphone and sing. If you can dance, bust out those moves. Do something that will outlive you. Start a family. But do something that will outlive you so you can leave your mark. I think that that is one of the most important things, is to utilize your gift. And if you're lost, find a religious community. I know that in today's society, people are down on God. People are afraid to talk about God. People don't believe in marriage anymore. But we decline as a society when that happens because people fill that void somehow. Because they're searching for purpose. What believing in God does, what having that relationship with God does, is it provides you with a purpose. It gives you the do's and don'ts of this life. It teaches you how to operate this thing we call life, where others just say, I don't want to listen to anybody. I'm just gonna make my own rules. I don't want to take anybody else's authority. I'm gonna follow my own authority. And you see a lot of them are miserable. They're trying to fill that void. So they're going from relationship to relationship. They're drinking, they're smoking, they're doing all of that. And then in the end, when they get older, then they come back and say, well, let me see about God and what this religion is all about. That is the great tragedy. I always say, take God everywhere you go. And where you can't take him, don't go. Have a relationship with God. It still works. Marriage still works. I don't care what they're saying on the internet, social media. I don't care what is cool and what isn't cool. And it still works. You are at your happiest when you find someone that can help you unlock your full potential. That's the way that it always has been. That's by design. Men and women don't think alike, which is why we're only half. And when we come together, we're whole. Because we cover each other's blind spots. We offer each other a different perspective. One may be more logical and rational, and the other may be more sensitive and emotional. And we can learn. We learn from each other. And I believe that is the way that Hashem designed it. But now you have this social media that is trying to pit women against men and men against women. That is just ridiculous to me. We need each other. And the crazy thing is that most people that are single walk around as if they're happy and they're content, and I don't need this person and I don't need that. And until you meet that person that makes you happy and you fall in love, now you can't go back to what you used to be because you experienced true happiness. So you think that you're happy until you meet that person that elevates you. And it's beautiful when it happens. The thing is social media has gotten everybody believing that marriage is all sunshine and rainbows. I guarantee you, they had many obstacles to go over. People that have been married 20 plus years, 30 plus years. Oh, there was some obstacles there. And I wish people We're more open and honest about that. But let's face it, most people aren't because they don't want to be judged. Because it makes them look bad to say that he or she cheated, but I stayed. He or she lied about this, but I stayed. Suddenly, to stay in a relationship is looked down upon. Everybody has something to say, everybody judges you. When the truth of the matter is, that's what makes a successful relationship that no one wants to talk about. Everybody has went through trials and tribulations in their marriage, but they chose to stay, and that's where the beauty comes in. They weathered the storm, and as years pass, they look back on it and they can say, we're stronger, we're better for it. And again, be the person that you want to find. Go ahead and make that list. Become the list. So, if you found this presentation helpful and informative, do me a huge favor and hit that like button. Do me a greater favor and subscribe to my channel. I always appreciate all the support that I'm given. Be good to yourselves. Be good to others. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Blade Talk. And until next Sunday, Shavua Tov. You all take care.